So House of the Dragon, Rich, what did you think?
I mean, this is what HBO does best. I mean, big, epic, super expensive, tens of millions of dollars an episode. But this is the bread and butter of HBO. And I think the big question for investors is going to be, how does this evolve over the course of the next 12 months? Obviously, as you know, Emily, Warner Media was acquired by Discovery, or essentially the companies came together into a merger. And at some point next summer, Discovery Plus is going to basically be, mashed together with HBO Max, probably still called HBO Max. And we're going to see sort of how those two brands come together into one service. But I think when you look at something like House of the Dragon, this is everything that HBO is known for over the last 20 years. Incredibly well produced, high end premium content.
Well, we're already seeing some of those growing pains as this, Discovery tries to merge these two cultures. What's your expectations about how it's all going to play out?
I mean, look, you've got a company, the reality is for Discovery, this was a save, right? I mean, Discovery did not have a future as a standalone company. They were going to be in deep trouble just being in the cable network world, especially in the nonfiction sort of. That world was not going to look pretty over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. And I don't think anyone really believed in the future of Discovery Plus. And so, because AT&T needed to get out of the Warner Media business, it sort of is this, really unique opportunity for sort of a kick save for John Malone and David Zaslav to sort of wind up being in control of one of the world's largest media companies. The negative is they have a lot of debt. And so that's why you're seeing sort of a lot of cost cutting and a lot of sort of retrenchment strategically. But I think the question is going to be, this is an incredible group of assets, and how much of their focus is on building for the future. There's no doubt in my mind that the future of television is going to be streamed, right? Like linear TV is dying. And so, how does Warner Media, which still has a tremendous amount of cable network, broadcast cable network assets, how do they transform that into the future? And can they do it with that much debt load? Obviously, you're seeing a lot of investors who are skeptical of their prospects so far.
Does the success of House of the Dragon bode well for Amazon's Lord of the Rings project and all the money and time that they spent on it?
Well, I think it's funny that you bring up Lord of the Rings, because it's actually a great example of the different strategy that you're now seeing at Warner Media, or sorry, at Warner Brothers Discovery, I should say, versus the old management team. Because if you go today, Emily, or if any of the viewers who are watching this turn on Amazon's, Prime Video, they can actually watch all of the original Lord of the Rings. Now, you'd say the original Lord of the Rings, those are Warner Brothers. Those should be on HBO Max, and they're on HBO Max, but they're now also on Amazon's Prime Video. So you see this culture now that's really changing inside of Warner Media, where instead of making it the exclusive home of content, they're really going back to more of a licensing model where, sure, it's on HBO Max, but now you can also get it on Amazon Prime, whereas that never would have happened under the prior management team. You're seeing a real focus on licensing to generate profits versus the only sort of North Star was streaming, meaning HBO Max. HBO Max is no longer the sole focus of Warner Brothers Discovery. They're looking to make money any way possible, including licensing to third parties like Amazon.
We're also seeing these streamers make more moves into sports. News today that Amazon is going to show its Thursday Night Football in bars and restaurants as part of its deal with DirecTV. And, you talked about, for the first time ever, there being more viewers on streaming than on cable. Is sports really the only way to take these streamers to the next level, to that next generation or chapter of growth?
Well, look, sports is a great way to get people to come in, right? If you have Champions League, which is what Paramount Plus just acquired, it's the only way you can watch Champions League is you've got to sign up for Paramount Plus. If you want to watch WWE's WrestleMania, you have to have Peacock. If each of these platforms is buying exclusive sports rights. Now, the negative is obviously you don't own these, you don't own the content. You have to keep fighting every 3, 5, 7, whatever the years are. You have to keep fighting for this content because you don't own it the way you own a piece of content. Netflix owns Stranger Things forever. Like, it's not disappearing. They don't have to go rebid for those rights in 3 years. So sports is really a double-edged sword. But I think what's interesting, Emily, is it's the last thing that's been holding the bundle together. Like right now, you can't name an entertainment show on traditional television that anyone cares about. The only thing that's sort of holding the sport or the traditional multi-channel video bundle together has been sports. And even now, sports are finally starting to move to streaming. And I think that's why you've seen a record pace of cord cutting, 7, 8% now. Cord cutting is becoming a real problem for all of these legacy media companies because they've moved so much great content, including sports, to streaming. And the tech companies are coming in and bidding on these sports rights. We think the big next thing you're going to see in the next 4 weeks, we believe Apple's going to buy Sunday Ticket, which has been on DirecTV for years. We think that moves over to Apple. And so you're seeing real massive seismic change that is going to have big problems for anybody in the cable network business in 2023.
Now, I know you're a prolific tweeter, and we were speaking earlier about this whistleblower that's come forward that could potentially give Elon Musk an edge in this battle royale to get out of that $44 billion deal to buy Twitter. What's your take?
It comes down to essentially one fundamental issue is, did Twitter falsify its public filings? Because the deal that Elon Musk agreed to didn't talk about bots or the percentage of bots or any of that. It basically just relied on the validity of Twitter's public filings. And if you read Twitter's public filings, it says, we make a lot of assumptions in how we look at the bot number. We think it's under 5%, but we could be wrong. If Twitter knowingly knew the number was far larger than 5%, and every one of Twitter's filings was essentially fraudulent because they were basically filing fraudulent documents with the SEC, then Musk has a case. Now, I find it hard to believe that Jack Dorsey and Ned Siegel and sort of the entire management team at Twitter has willfully for years been filing false SEC documents. It's obviously possible. I think it's unlikely. Unless those documents, unless those filings with the SEC are knowingly false, Twitter has already said they could have made mistakes in how they did this. This is not an exact science. If that's the case, Elon will be paying $54.20.
Right. And to be clear, we're talking about the number of bots that advertisers that actually see advertising that are counted at MAUs, not the number of bots overall. That's what they're referring to with that 5%, less than 5% number.
Correct. There are certainly good bots that are part of Twitter that you actually would want there. But in terms of sort of the spammy part that shouldn't be counted as actually, monetizable DAUs, as Twitter calls them, MDAUs is actually the term Twitter uses.
Right.
They have said repeatedly that the percentage of bots on a quarterly basis is sub 5% based on their analysis, but that analysis could be flawed. You would have to believe that they knowingly knew, meaning they factually knew the number was north of 5% and chose to do different disclosure in the SEC filings. That's the only way Musk gets out of paying $54.20.